All right, and we are back for the second season cast assessment for Hysteria Cult of the Maenads. Once again, joined by Tiki. Tiki, I would do the how are you doing again, but we literally just did that 20 minutes ago. So
I'm
let's
still
just
tired, Casey.
let's just jump right into it. So our first contestant for this podcast, we have Dream. It's not often we get the like alias names, sort of. We got that with Bloody. We have one for Dream now. But Dream was a contestant. Oh, Tiki, sorry. Season one, season two, season three. Sorry.
Yeah, just
I'm
saying.
so used to legitimately calling you Tiki that it's like that has replaced as like a legitimate name.
No, I feel that it's really funny because I feel like I have this like really distinct split in my identity where everyone that first got to know me online thinks of me as Tiki, and it's weird for them to think of me as Tyler. And it's like the exact opposite is true for people that got to know me in real life, right? Like if my coworkers, if they would have, if they find my podcast channel and they start calling me Tiki, I'm like, dude, don't. You're mixing the streams here, dude. Don't.
In a different world for myself, I have a name like that too. In a different online world, people know me as Kane because it's a username that I have. And every now and again, someone who will kind of know my name outside of things will call me Casey.
Name from
And
Survivor 44, the big celebrity.
no, that goes back like from when I was a kid. But yeah, it just throws me off like when they call me my actual name. But anyway,
Yeah.
going back to Dream. So Dream was a contestant from season three. I, at least if I remember correctly, know that Dream actually watched season two of Prometheus, Season of the Elders, and from there had the interest in playing in season three. And just talking to Dream over Discord, I was like, Dream's awesome. Like, there's no reason why we wouldn't cast Dream. And we did our interview and it was a no-brainer. So then when we had the opportunity to do this game, 99% sure Dream was among the first handful of people to apply. But yeah, very curious to get your thoughts on Dream.
Okay, I'm going to be kind of disappointing. I didn't really get that much of an impression of him just based on the interview. I'm going to be totally real with you. That's not to say he's like an unmemorable person and he was boring. You know, I'm really not trying to say that. But for the EDGIC ratings, which, folks, if you don't know what those are, I'm doing them for every person. It's not really, it's just kind of like how I feel like they're going to perform in the game. For a bigger context on that, check out part one. For my EDGIC rating, this is like honestly kind of the one cop out because I don't like the way you build him up, and with a name like Dream, I don't really see this guy being under the radar. But it was the only rating I had left that kind of applied to like my thoughts on his game, just because I don't really have much of a read. I kind of feel like his interview, I don't think generic was the right word, but he was basically just kind of like laying out, you know, your typical Survivor strategies. I didn't really get the impression that it was all that deep. But again, yeah.
To be fair, and for the context of everyone listening, I did send Tiki some videos of the contestants who he doesn't know anything about. And I actually did not send you Dream's interview. What I had sent you was his cast intro video that he had sent in for
Okay.
season three. So that wasn't the actual interview. I didn't originally want to send you the interviews for the other season three players just because they're like anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes a piece. And I did not think you wanted to sit through a couple hours. So I was like, what's something that I could do that might give you an idea of who they are? So.
So yeah, so with that in mind, I kind of get the feeling that this guy might be someone where his personality pops the more you spend with him. Because, like I said, I'm not trying to paint the picture like he was boring or anything. I'm really not trying to do that. But I feel like out of everyone on the cast, he's the person that I have the least handle on his personality and how he's going to play. I don't really know. Since the UTR, I'm terribly sorry. He sounds like a very big character, and I'm sure he'll be entertaining to see play. But yeah, for the time being, just on the very limited knowledge that I have, that's kind of the default that I slotted him into.
Any idea of whether you see him as a murderer or an innocent?
Honestly, with a name like Dream, I could totally see that being a good alibi for like, hey, I'm just here to lift people up, right? Like I don't know. When I think of Dream, I think of like that one YouTuber whose face is like there's a big controversy about like him revealing his face, and then everyone was like, "No, you shouldn't have revealed your face." But I hope to God at least somebody watching this knows what I'm talking about because
No,
I
I
see the look on
actually,
your face, and I know
I
that you are.
believe it or not, I actually think I do know who you're talking about. I used to be very big on YouTube, but I can't quite say. I hate when it does that. I don't know if that's even going to pop up in the recording. But anyway, that aside, I'll just say get ready for, in my mind, a pleasant surprise with Dream in this season.
Okay,
We'll
okay,
leave
for
it at
sure.
that. Definitely very interesting. So moving on to our second vacationer castaway player of Hysteria, we have Jeffrey, who we had seen in Season of the Elders, definitely one of our biggest early characters of Season of the Elders. Jeffrey was out third third in Season of the Elders, if I remember correctly. So, what's your take on Jeff?
Okay, honestly, out of all the returning players, this might be the most exciting to me because this guy's a total fucking wild card. Like, bringing back Coach, bringing back Anna, bringing back Bloody, those very much make sense. Like, those are like your top draft picks to bring back in a returning capacity from those seasons, right? But Jeffrey, I think he is not just one of the best pre-merge characters that you have. I think out of the two seasons, all due respect to my other pre-merge people, I think he's the biggest pre-merge person out of anyone from Prometheus 1 and 2. That being said, he is a character, and he very much the thing that I love about him is also the thing that's going to get him in trouble, which is that he's got such a big personality that it's like just impossible for him to really hold his cards close to his vest. I think especially in a game like this, he could be good at being kind of like a watchdog that's kind of like sniffing out clues. I could see him being good in that capacity. If you assign him a killer role, like I said, it's like that poker face thing, except even worse with him. I really don't think he would handle it very well. But with that being said, my rating for him I think is pretty appropriate. It's just OTTM, over the top mixed. Um, I'm really looking forward to seeing him play again. Like I said, I just think just from a pure character point of view, he's kind of a gold mine. So yeah,
Do
I'm
you
stoked that he's on the cast.
do you think that he potentially learned anything from watching his game back in season two?
I definitely think so. I definitely think there's the potential. Like I said, I think the problem is that the issue that he faces isn't so much like a game mechanic issue, it's just his personality, which again, his personality is his biggest strength as a character. Just how out front and over the top he is, and how much he kind of like fills out a room. Very much, the type of person that I am not. Like, I can guarantee you that was one of the many reasons why I was booted first from my tribe is that when it comes to me in a group setting, I kind of tend to fall back a little bit and just kind of let the ball roll. And that didn't work out for me when I was also dealing with a bunch of tech issues on the side.
Yeah.
So yeah, I 100% team Jeffrey as far as just the bringing the entertainment. And I do think that there is some really valid growth potential too for him as well.
Okay. Murder, innocent, ultimate, your ultimate judgment.
Oh wow, we're spending a lot of time on him. I would say, like I said, if I were, I'm just gonna think like a producer, right? I would want him in the game as long as I can, and I think he would have a far better shot if he wasn't a murderer. Because, like I said, I just think he's got the personality where he would very much have those tells that would be easy to pick up on. So, if I were to guess, I'd say he's probably innocent.
Okay. So moving on to our third castaway player, vacationer, we have Kyle. Kyle was a original Prometheus contestant who placed second, only literally losing the game by a single vote. But what are your thoughts on Kyle?
Oh, Kyle, what could have been, dude? I mean, I think that as far as like if I would have ended up on that team, I think me and Coach probably would have been like tighter, but he was absolutely day one, the single person in that cast I zeroed in on. Like, he does content creation, he's on the West Coast, he's the comedy guy. Like, I wanted to work with Kyle in season one so fucking badly. So he was my rooting interest the entire season as the game was airing, because I got eliminated early enough that it was pretty much a surprise how the rest of the game played out for me. Kyle, honestly, I truly think that he is like, I mean, I do really like him just on a personal level because of the things that we have in common with each other. I think he's an elite player, though, especially for something like this. I think that he is kind of like that. Honestly, out of everyone in the cast, I truly think he might be the best equipped to handle both roles. I feel like he's a very analytical player, but he also comes off as unassuming, and he can mask other intentions with the kind of like comedy side that he has to him. So whether it's a killer or someone trying to investigate the killers, I think he's going to be sharp. I think he's going to be on his A game. Like you said, he came within one vote of winning season one. So I very much think there's going to be kind of like, wanting to prove himself element too. So honestly, if I were to place my bet on a winner, I would probably, he might be it right now. Yeah. Let's see. Looking at Edgic, looking at the rating I gave him MORP, middle of the road positive. I could see him being more complex. I could see him being more strategic, but I think that is a good rating for him because I think he's going to be in the middle of everything. He is a very solid narrator, and he's a generally pretty positive presence. So, okay.
All right, moving on to our fourth castaway player, vacationer, we have Lori. Lori was on production for season one, was on production for season two, was on production for season three. She has intimate knowledge of all of the players in the game, with the exception of our very last player we'll get to in a couple. But the very interesting thing is, and Lori, watches all these types of reality shows, Survivor, Big Brother, Amazing Race, Traders, Mole back in the day, everything. But this is actually Lori's very first game.
Oh, man. So essentially what we have here, Casey, is we have that age-old question: what would happen if Probst played Survivor? Like, that truly is like, I mean, obviously you're not playing, right? But I feel like out of everyone in production besides you, she might be the most synonymous with production. And because of that, I think it's going to be a really interesting road no matter what. I gave her toneless, complex personality for Edgic. That might be generous of me just based on the fact that, like, it is her first game ever. But then again, you have to look at it from the point of view of, I'm sure she's got a hyper analytical mind, especially for like a Prometheus game, like a game set within that like brand. Like, yeah, I mean, that's way more than even someone who's like a super fan of Survivor would have intimate knowledge of going into a Survivor season. And just the brief, because you sent me her first confessional, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so without giving too much away in that, I can see the wheels in her head turning immediately, right? And I can see that she is going to be a very analytical player, very thoughtful as far as like who she talks to. And because of that, I think CP Toneless does fit with her. I don't know. I feel like out of everyone in the cast, there's a lot of variables here. Because honestly, I'm going, if you were to ask me like how I feel about the killer or victim thing, I would say probably what I would say for myself, which is that at this point, like if I were playing in a game like this, I wouldn't even be concerned with the killer or being the victim or whatever. I would just want to form those initial relationships because for me, just being in a game like this is so overwhelming to begin with. Like, for example, when I play Power Grab, I was not concerned with the powers. I was really trying to keep the powers out of my head. I was really just trying to play that game based on personalities. And I feel like with Lori, it's going to be a similar thing. I could see her kind of coasting by just based on those interpersonal relationships. Now, that's not to say I could see her. Once again, I feel like there's an unknown factor with her, with the killer thing, that I feel like could work to her favor if she was a killer. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of variables with her. I see more upside than downside, though.
Okay. Interesting. Yeah, it's always hard to judge someone who's never played a game before, who essentially nobody knows anything about. And she is the only player that essentially nobody knows. Andrew was on production for season 3. Bloody was on production for Andrew was on production for season 2 and 3. Bloody was on production for season 3. So in a sense, they got to know her through that process, but it's not like we're having regular hang sessions, you know?
Right, yeah.
But so moving on to our next vacationer, we have Luke, and I like to say his last name, and I'm always hoping that I'm pronouncing it correct, but Luke DeVoe, I believe is how you say it. Luke is a season 3 player, which I did send you his intro video. He is young and wild. That's what I'll say about Luke.
I literally sent Casey a message as soon as I saw the video. I was like, I fucking love Luke. Here's the deal. I very much see a lot of myself, obviously like a younger version of myself in him. Honestly, like, because as far as the occupation goes, I worked in a thrift store for 5 years, so that really kind of struck a chord with me right off the bat. I'm like,
as I figured it would.
yeah. And just his personality and just this dude, I think, out of everyone in the cast, this guy might be the most like well-spoken as far as just like delivering confessional material. I mean, the way that he talks is just honestly kind of captivating, especially for someone that young. And because he's young, I feel like he doesn't have that filter that someone like me would have, right? I feel like that's the big difference between someone like me and someone like him is I would play a lot more conservatively. I would not take those big swings that he is very much revving up to take. I honestly think he'd be a really good kind of like ally to have for a more conservative player like myself, someone to kind of like be out front, you know, taking more of those big swings, but you're reaping the benefit of it. Now, as far as the killer thing goes, I do think that he's a little bit on the bubble. If I would have actually seen him play, I probably could have judged this a little bit more. I could see it going either way if he is the killer. I could see him doing a good job of pulling it off. I could also see him being one of those people where his personality is so big that he's just got too many tells and that he gets caught through that. And given his personality, it really wouldn't surprise me if you slotted him into that role. So we'll see about that. Let's see. As far as the rating goes, I think this rating is pretty spot on, just toneless over the top. Right?
Fair enough. Yeah, I figured. Yeah, Luke is definitely a character. I could say so much, but you can't spoil anything. Yeah, Luke is a character. Probably potentially one of the biggest characters we've ever had, I'll just say.
I got that vibe. I did get that vibe. Yeah, out of the 3 seasons. And I will say that his presence kind of single-handedly makes me even more stoked for season 3. No disrespect to any of the other season 3 people that are on the cast. I'm sure they're all great, but like this guy is like, what I was saying about like Coach and Anna for season 1 or Bloody for season 2. This guy seems like he would be like the top draft pick for a returning player season from season 3.
Yeah, he's very interesting, and funny too. He is the youngest player we have this season. Whereas the average age, I believe, of the players is about 26, 27. Luke's 19, and then you have Andy, Lori, and our final person, Sherry, who are much older than the rest of the contestants. Lori's 49, Andy's 51, Sherry's like 55, I believe. But let's go into Sherry here for a moment.
Yeah.
So Sherry's our final player. Sherry is, if I'm not mistaken, more experienced in the org world than almost all of these players combined. Sherry's been around. Sherry is sharp. And Sherry is very talkative and friendly. So what was your thoughts on Sherry? You saw the first confessional of Hysteria with her.
I got to tell you, I'm totally biased when it comes to this woman, and you know why, right?
Because of her being on the previous podcast, which is where she's alumni from.
She did my cast assessment for season 1, and she was very glowing about me. So I am pretty biased when it comes to her, I've got to admit. But I will say, for someone so experienced, and I'm not trying to paint this in a negative light, but like the one confessional that I saw her, it was a little bit all over the place. And for that reason, I have her EDGIC rating as middle of the road mixed. And I don't know, like she seemed very scattered because she was talking about like potential things that she has already said in the game that might be getting back to her. And I got to tell you, man, like as someone who's almost inherently like, I'm not even kidding when I say this, like after my experience with the last game I played, I'm straight up scared to play these games. Like I'm not joking, man. It's like like there are certain personality types and certain like anxieties and mental health issues that just do not gel well with games like this. I'm not saying that she has any of that. I'm just saying that I could recognize some of those anxieties that I have in the way that she was approaching it, like right off the gate. So I don't know. I got to tell you, just based on that first impression, mixed with the fact that she is kind of that legacy player that kind of makes her almost like an it factor, I'm very worried for her chances on this season. I'm dubious of her. As far as like, I think people would target her just based on being such a veteran, on top of her seemingly not having a really smooth opening game just based on that opening confessional. So definitely rooting for her, because again, I was very like, as someone who, I don't do a lot of these games, so I was very flattered. I am one of those people where if you say nice things about me, I will be fucking loyal to you for life. That's a little Hint, if you ever find yourself in a game with me, which is very unlikely, but, happens once every 5 years or so.
All right. And then, so final question, more likely to be a murderer or to be an innocent?
Honestly, I feel like with her reputation and with the target being already so big, I would honestly think it would be like a little bit cruel to have her be a murderer because she's already kind of like such a big like it factor in the cast as it is. But I don't know if you do put her in that killer role. I do think that she could kind of like slide through that killer role with less potential tells than someone like a Jeffrey, for example. So I don't think she would be the worst person to slot into the killer role, but I do think that it would be like just an extra level of challenge for her just based on that added reputation that she has.
Okay. Fair enough. And you have heard it here. That is all 12 of our players, castaways, vacationers for Hysteria Season 1, Cult of the Maenads. So thank you so much, Tiki, for coming on. I hope everyone has enjoyed this podcast. It's always kind of a fun little thing to do before we officially start airing the new season. But on that note, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and have a good night.